Nonetheless, let's kind of wrap up week 3, and we'll get to a little segment here that we had planned out for tonight. We're going to go pretenders and contenders. I'm going to go ahead and start with you here first tonight, Bush. Why don't you give me a couple pretenders and maybe a couple contenders that you've got on your list?
So a few of my pretenders. I'm gonna say the Rams would definitely be one of my pretenders. Um, and this goes back to week one. And I know Charles, you picked the Niners to win the division. Ben and I, we both picked the Rams, but I still feel they're too one dimensional in their offensive approach. I know they got Cam Akers going a little bit more last week. Um, but again, I don't, their number two receiver situation is still a little shaky. I mean, Allen Robinson certainly hasn't lived up to the hype that I thought he was going to. You know, you're targeting Cooper Cup almost 15 times a game. That's not going to work for a little while. I don't know. It's just the Rams just they don't seem like the powerhouse to me now that I thought that they were going to be in the preseason. And again, that's why we give our opinions and we have all of these preseason predictions and whatnot because by about week 3 or 4, we look like idiots in some way, shape, or form. My contenders, I'm still gonna stick with Detroit. I know they're 1-2 right now, but man, they're a tough team. Yeah, they're losing close games and whatnot, and I understand that that was an issue even dating back to last year for them. But I don't know. I still think that the Lions have a really, really good shot to stay competitive and sneak into the playoffs this year at some point. Dan Campbell has a really good thing going. They were up at one point. They were up at one point on Minnesota, and Minnesota came out with it at the end. But I still think that the Lions have a chance to be very, very good at some point. They just need to break free of these late game mishaps that have been happening to them.
Right. Charles, how about for you, man? What's a pretender you got and maybe a contender that's on your
So
list?
I'm looking at the NFL power rankings, right? And I'm going to start with the Green Bay Packers being a pretender. I still think that they're going to win that division. I just think Aaron one and done will go one and done again. So I'm going to go with them as a pretender. Um, and a contender here. I'm going to go, although they lost in like just a really, really disappointing fashion last week, I want to go with the Baltimore Ravens. Because I think if their defense can get it together, if just by chance their defense can get it together, and I'm just talking holding teams to 20 points or 20 or less points, a couple of times this year, the Ravens will be, you know, they might be the best team in the AFC. And we're going to see that this week. They got a real test here with the Buffalo Bills coming up here. So that's my contender for the AFC. And then, not, well, I don't care if I sound like a homer. The Eagles,
Eagles are a contender, man. Like, don't leave them off your list.
I,
Heck
I, I,
yeah.
I gotta say, and I think I picked them to be Bush and I picked them to be the number one seed. The way their schedule's looking, I do think that they're going. I just don't know who I'm going to pick this week. I think they're going to lose on Sunday, but um, they look good. Jalen, I can't wait till Sunday Night Football, which I'll hopefully be at that game against the Cowboys. But I love when they. I think I said this before when they show like the. I'm about to call him Tom Collins. Chris Collinsworth does the the sports track, the throwing motion. I can't wait to see the difference between Hurts last year and this year because there is a difference. He's looking pretty on his deep ball. That 50-50 ball that he's throwing up to AJ Brown, he's got more confidence. So we'll see. But I think I'm going to put them on the contender side right now. My pretender in the AFC, which is going to shock some people, is the Miami Dolphins. And I'll
Yep.
just, yeah. And,
I'll
you know,
fill in the blanks for you if you want.
yeah, go ahead. Just,
Because I got them as a pretender myself, man. They're 3-0. Everyone's high and mighty on them. But, like I was just saying with Bush here earlier, it's like they they barely beat New England. 20-7 it was, and their touchdowns were kind of fluky. Like you had a sack for a touchdown, which occurred at the 5 yard line. You had a 4th and 7 go for a 42-yard touchdown right before halftime, which is very unpatriot like. And that was I don't want to completely rule that out. Let's give them for the sake of things, we'll give them a win there. But you go to week 2 with the Ravens. That fourth quarter was basically unheard of. I mean, we talked about it. What was it? 1 in 711 when trailing by 21. So that was kind of a fluke thing. And like you said, the Ravens defense, if they get it together, they win that game handily. So they were rolling. And then this week with the Bills, you weren't here for the first segment, but Bush and I said the Bills gave that game away. You look at the
Yeah.
time of possession, you look at the plays, 90-39. Just a couple bad decisions, bad coaching decisions there at the end. Tough look there for Isaiah McKenzie not getting out of bounds. I know Terrence Williams has done that a time or two with the Cowboys, but
Yeah.
that's kind of what you're thinking as well with the Dolphins, right, Charles? Yeah, I mean, so
Absolutely. And then
go
just
ahead.
with Tua, I know y'all probably talked about this in the first segment. Tua definitely had a concussion. I don't care what they're saying about his back.
No
That
question.
that was a concussion, and shit like that's going to come back to haunt him because if the NFLPA does what they're supposed to, they're going to sue the shit out of them.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. You hit the nail on the head there. That's exactly what we talked about. Like Bush said, he was like, you don't get up that wobbly. I mean, if your back's hurting that bad, you're going to stay on the ground and wait till you get some medical attention. But he's getting up. The guys are holding him up. It's just like, come on, something ain't right here.
You don't blame that on a hyperextended back. That just doesn't quite make sense to me.
You're
So,
not getting up with that. He was wobbly. You're not
yeah.
wobbly with. He hit the back of his head on the turf. That's a concussion. We've seen it millions of times.
Right. And as far as a contender for me, Bush, I think you kind of took the words right out of my mouth there with the Lions. I think if they pull everything together and manage these late game situations a little bit better, they might be a team that's going to cause some trouble for a couple people down the line. But another pretender that I had was the Jaguars, and I know Charles, you just mentioned you think Philly might lose to them this weekend, but I don't know, man. I think they're starting off hot here. I'm not expecting them to go from 2-15 to uh, 14-3, but I think they'll look a little bit better. But ultimately, that division, the Titans can't be terrible all season. They finally get in the win column. Colts look like they're going to turn things around. I don't know. I'm just not too super sold on the Jaguars being a true contender when it comes time for the playoffs. So